I know, we just came to talk to each other and influence themselves and everything what to see. That's the way to do it. Well, thank you all very much for coming out here today on a cold winter's night. Great to have such a good turnout, and I think you're not going to be disappointed. You're going to see some great photos and hear some interesting stories, some of which might be true. And most of them will be exaggerated, but they'll be entertaining, I'm sure. So it's really good. I'm really pleased to welcome Dave Craig here tonight to be our speaker. I'm sure there's a lot of you in the audience who know him far better than I do. So I won't spend long introducing him other than to say that he's had half a century of exploring the Spey. And I understand that as well as navigating the river, he kind of navigates the politics that surround the river, the small people of the different interests. And that's led to him getting an award in BEM in recognition of those subtle maneuvers that he's able to pull off. So it'll be intriguing to hear how that all plays out in reality during his voyages up and down the Spey. So I'll move on quickly and hand you over to Dave. Thank you very much for coming along and sharing your experiences with us, and look forward to hearing more about it.
My pleasure. Thank you very much. Thanks so much. Thank you all for being here this evening. It's lovely to have such a large turnout. Very glad to be here to help support this wonderful hall. It's just a brilliant facility. I think every village you have, including you, should know. Anyway, yes, I'm Dave Craig, and I think really I do what I do because I think my mother was actually born a few days before, which made me a Pisces, and I think I'm a sort of water spirit rather than a ram. But anyway, I love water. I was brought up in Stonehaven, and I feel very privileged in lots of times in my life, and part of that privilege was being brought up in Stonehaven, because we had the outdoor swimming pool, we spent lots of our childhood there, we always had access to boats, and then there was a hero of mine, a chap called Bill Sheriff, who was a local community worker, and he realised we liked boats and outdoor things, so he took his skiing to the left, and he also used to kayaking, and we spent quite a lot of time kayaking on the Dee, and then one day, about 1965, he brought us to the Spey. And I think that's a pivotal moment in my life, because I think my life could have changed it. It sounds very twee to say it, but I think I fell in love with Spey at that time, and since then I've got a great affinity with our wonderful river. So I think that's really why I'm here tonight. Much thanks to Bill Sheriff for bringing us into water sports. So yeah, so I have a confession to make. I did think an hour and a half to speak, but it said we'd be very fed up with that, and and I have actually prepared it based on an hour and a half. So the thing is that people who know me know I'm a man of very few words anyway. so I'll let the pictures do the talking. So we'll just start flipping through if this is going to work for me. I'll just give me 2 seconds. We'll now just take this thing out, and we're just sorting it out. I can do the site a bit. Sorry, we had to, partly because we're on. I'm just wondering what I did with the. Anyway, I'll do without that. Yeah, I'll just have to do from here. We set. It's a pocket here, right?
Yes, I thought I saw it.
Every great man does a great woman. Right. Right, sorry, this. There we are, I think it should be. Yeah, okay, that's good. Right, so I thought we should really start off by confirming what I use canoe in. And this is a canoe, just to make it clear, because people say to me, do you canoe or do you kayak? But this is a canoe. And this is what we use to ply in the river. Most of the trips, a classic Spey descent for me starts at Craig and goes to the sea. But this is the real start of the journey. This is where the mighty Spey starts. The Spey shares its watershed with the Roy. So if you go off to the right of this picture, the water goes off to the Roy, and go to the left, it goes into the Spey. So these are the little headwaters of the Spey. And this is Loch Spey, high up the Monolith. And it then meanders. Well, sorry, this is my good friend Robbie, actually paddling up the Loch Spey. Not many people actually go paddling Loch Spey. It's quite a trawl in, because you need to use trolleys and so on to get up there a few miles in, and you go in from Garber Bridge. But this is the actual loch itself, Loch Spey. And then out of the loch, which is now to your right, then it meanders way down through here. So it's a bit of a sluggish start. But it, for a moment, has a turbulent kind of nature. And this is a bit, again, a lot of people don't know about, but there are some great free rapids up here. So they are quite technical, but they are paddleable. And so the Spey is unique in lots of different ways. And one of the ways it's unique is that although it's a very young, sprightly river at this stage, it actually does then become not exactly turgid, but it's quite slow thereafter. If you think about the area here, there are very few contours and the kind of topography of the land here. So the Spey is very slow moving down through here. Unlike some rivers that are very lively at the start, then they get more grand towards the middle, and then they peter out towards the end. After Granton, in fact, the Spey is lively all the way down, much to do with the Anne coming in, for example, or other fairly substantial tributaries like Drew and so on. But this is the lively young Spey. And then this is kind of the historic bit. This is the Wades Bridge. Off to the left of this slide is the Corriere Pass, which I just think is an amazing feat for Wades men to be building this road over from Fort Augustus. And that was during the time that they were fortifying the Highland area to keep these wild Highlanders at bay. So they refortified Fort Augustus, and then it came across the Corriere, and this is the Garber Bridge. So this is really the bridge is highest up on the Spey, very picturesque bridge. And then it carries on down and it gets to what's known as really the Spey Dam. And it's quite an obstruction to the river. And this is the one wall of it, and this is the main part. This is a bit of controversy here, because I thought we had enough water in Fort William that we need stealing the Spey, but that's what they do. They actually steal the water from the Spey. And it was originally done to really bring power to the smelter. And there's lots of channels go off from the top side of the loch, of the dam, and it goes under the mountains, and it goes off to Fort William to help power the smelter. The difficulty is that when they built this, they didn't really think about the salmon getting up there, so the fish ladder in this is very antiquated now, and the salmon are not very good at getting beyond here. The other difficulty is that, particularly now, that electricity is in such big demand, and a lot of our power has come from Perthshire, that a lot of the rivers that should be feeding the Spey, like the Truam and rivers like that, And even if you look at the distillery, for example, a lot of the water that's coming in from, say, Loch Cuig and so on, that's actually all diverted off into Teesside. So the Spey at the moment, sadly, is losing a lot of its headwaters, partly because of the Spey Dam and partly because of the demand for electricity moving off into Teesside. And so there is actually a project or a kind of crusade on this now, which is hashtag release the Spey. And just a factual figure is it's now reckoned that by the time the Spey reaches Abbeymoor, it's probably because of this water being taken off, it's now lost 60% of its volume, which is quite a big amount of river and water that we're losing. So that is affecting the biodiversity of the river. And you could say, well, the river's flooding and there's all these sort of things, but then again, that needs to be addressed in another way as well. We need to have the tributaries slowing down, because the tributaries have been canalised over the years, and of course that's something controversial, one of the beavers, and so they might help that, because they would, the rivers probably, I think the Almorgy, Carbridge, you may know what that is, an award-winning project, but they've actually been rerouting that river, which was canalised. It ran very straight, and so if we get the rivers to actually start meandering again, that would actually slow the river, the mainstay of the river down. So it's a case of getting this balance between maybe getting some of the water we're losing in this Spey Dam and maybe getting back some of the water we're losing to the hydro. Right, so this is moving down, this is below Wagon, and here you have this waterfall here, and I'm going to speak French now, I'm not being rude, it's called Wee. I think it probably is the latter actually, but it's spelled the language is spelled the French way. And this is a waterfall quite powerful when it's been a lot of rain, but it's also a place for winter climbing. And that's on Craig Dew. And I think I've got another slide here. This is again a bit further down Craig Dew, yeah, so the lovely climbing track right beside the Spey. And then this is looking from Craig Dew back down again. And again, you can see what I was saying earlier about the fact the river does meander quite a bit at this particular point. And this is going out the water, this will lock a UV. We've done a bit of filming over the time, and if you've seen it, then I hope you enjoyed it. But we did film for Channel 5 about, I think it was the September of 2020, and then we were streaming in April 2021. It was called The World's Most Scenic River Journeys. They got in touch and they said they'd done the Seine and done the Niagara and so on, but they couldn't find a river in Britain that was scenic and had boats on it. And they said, did I think the Spey was a suitable river? And I said, well, I think we've come to the right place. So the cameraman was this chap on the right here, this is Andy, and you can recognise from Kirk Watson. And Kirk was doing some of the drone shots. And this is us on a lovely September day. The colours did change very early that year, and it meant that we just had these stunning colours. And if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. You can still go up in my 5. And I think it's on YouTube as well, which is the World's Most Scenic River Journeys. They follow the rail journeys they did on Channel 5, which are excellent. So the filming is really great. And we have different ways of getting cameramen into boats, and Andy was a bit of a brave character. You can see rock and roll, just jump in a boat, and this is my friend Jerry, and someone we know, and this is us paddling down. And again, you've got Craig Dew in the background with these lovely kind of birches changing colour in the background there. This is heading down towards Newton Moor. And this is over the other side of Craig Dew, probably going a bit kind of northwest, I suppose. And this is the River Calder. And this is another major tributary of the Spey. And again, it runs in just above Newton Moor. And this is further up the Calder Glen. I think that hill's called, is it Bendy, I think it's called. Anyway, this is one of the old bothies up there. Glenbannacha is very well known for its turf houses. There's lots of settlements, so really wise that time. They built their houses at that time well above the floodplain. And yeah, so this is a bit of a desolate day in Glenbannacha. But one interesting thing with Glenbannacha now is that, in keeping with the fact that we need to work on our riverbanks. Over the piece we have, I think probably our forefathers weren't as educated as we are now about how we need to sort of basically have trees, and especially by rivers, because they help absorb the water. Woodland would absorb up to 60% more water than, say, a sterile moorland will. This is a big project that happened in the Calder, where they actually erected deer fences, because obviously the deer are really culprits for disallowing tree growth. So they put up these big deer fences, and you can see there are some pines here. There's also lots of native deciduous trees planted here as well. And the hope will be that they'll grow up and they will start protecting the banks. And already there's evidence of saplings coming through naturally in that sort of area. Moment. And again, go back to the Lungi project, then the diversity is completely grown hugely there. I mean, trees given a chance will grow, and I think a lot of people don't realise that this is actually a shingle bank on the Spey. This little round is obviously started seeding and had a chance and starting to pop up there. But in a lot of the moors, then if you were to take the deer and the sheep off the hills, then the trees would grow there as well, and along riverbanks. The other thing that's happened in the Calder as well is they've taken what you might class as pretty worthless, maybe Norway spruces, and they've actually put them into the river. And this is to help slow the flow of the river down. I think this next one shows you that there's a big boot there. Now, this is actually quite recently when the river was in spate. So, but even here you can see that here there's a big eddy forming. So this ties in with the salmon as well, in that there is a salmon that are now an endangered species, and they've actually been categorised as that internationally. That the Atlantic salmon is now technically an endangered species. And if you've got a river like the Calder that's been, I might call it, canalised, then they can go up to the river and they'll lay their eggs. If the river's flowing down straight to the state, then millions of these eggs get washed away. So we need a way to help slow these rivers down so that more eggs will actually survive. And this is the kind of human way of trying to do that at the moment. And that'll link in with things like trying to get the rivers to re-meander, as it were. Right, so we're carrying on a journey on downstream. This is as far as I remember, the only rail bridge over the Spey in its whole length, and this is just as you approach Newton Moor. And then just past Newton Moor, between Kingeash and Newton Moor, if you look up the hill, this is actually taken from the river, so this gives you a better angle to look at it. This is actually a place called Balachroan. And Balachroan is very historical. This is where the black officer stayed. And he was not a particularly popular chap. He was actually born down towards Lagan, and he was in the army for most of his life and travelled the world, and then he came back. He was almost retired to be the black officer in this area, and he was the recruitment officer. He was the man that would find a devious way and be picking up the king's shilling. But the other thing about him was that he farmed this area around where his dwelling was, and he was getting much better crops than everyone else. His cattle were bigger, and so on. And everyone really were convinced, partly because of the job he did, but because he had this great thing about raising great crops and big beasts that he really thought was a league with the devil. But in fact, the reckoning was that probably he was one of the first people who was to use rotational farming. He'd seen that technique abroad, and he was using that. And obviously, his ground was better for the different crops that he was growing. Right, and then just as we approach Kingeash more or less off down towards Inch, this is the Crowley, another tributary of the Spey. And then benefiting from the Crowley is this building here. This was called the Crowley Mills, and this was a flour mill for many years, but this is now the home of the Speyside distillery, where they make different things. You can still see the water wheel there, and it's not too good. It's like that's the mill lane coming down there. But it's a very bonny place actually. And I forgot about that slide. Yeah, that's the lane crashing down there. And they make and I think they're actually beautiful bottles that are actually quite big supporters of our work, thankfully. And this is actually one of this is my canoe tabletop for my bar when I get to gala to somebody's. But this is the range. They use French glass, and some of the barmen didn't like the bottles because they're taller than average bottle, but that worked in the favour of the Spey distillers because we can put the bottles to the front of the shelf, so it works pretty well. And then they also make some gin as well. So this is Byron's gin, maybe or two. That's just in the actual mill lane. I'm going to keep that short. And then they also make the well known locally the B&Do, finished in ruby port casks, and that's what mainly gives it that dark colour. Right, let's see, we've done a bit of filming over the piece, and this is us just quite close to Rufford Barracks actually. And this is us filming for the Adventure Show, which you know is a Scottish programme based in the outdoors. And this is the back of the head of a fairly well-known Scottish outdoor broadcaster, certain Mr. McNeish, who was going to be here tonight and sent his apologies, but he had other things on. But anyway, this is us just filming with Cameron for the Adventure Show. And then, well, what should have said was the back of the other head there, that's obviously the cameraman. This is Meg, who's a producer. She lives in Newtonmore as well. And when we're doing this, we raft up boats so the cameraman can be stable. And this is my good friend, Mr. Burley, Tony Mino from Carbridge. It's really my company. I have this thing of help the agent. So I'm bringing people like Tony. He's not here, is he? I thought he might stay away, that's why I was confused. Right, this is what we do, we just link the rafts together, and the boats together with some planks, and that works really well. Now, Cameron McNeish is famous for his hot air, and so this is him blowing up his pack raft. He wanted us both to be in pack rafts, and I said, well, Cameron, I'm not a pack rafter, I know what a pack raft is. And I think they have a place. I think if you're doing something like cross country from west to east here and through the Rannoch Moors, I think pack rafts are great. But the thing was that I was glad I did this. I said to Cameron, well, I'm a canoeist, you're a pack rafter, so let's talk about our respective crafts on the way down. And afterwards, I was really pleased when people said, it was so nice to see you looking so graceful in your boat, Dave. Cameron looked like a big puddock. Yeah, that's a frog from the mission. Right, and then this is a lovely sort of bit through the Inch Marshes, the road up to the Scorns in front there, and that's where we filmed with Cameron. It was a lovely day we had for that, and it really, remember Meg Else, when we were doing it, the producer said this will make great television, and it did indeed make great television. And this is us arriving with that rafted up canoes into Loch Inch. And up here you have, I worked at Laganlia for 25 years, and this is when I went to work and left work, I was looking at this hill. This is Craig the Gaelican, which in short means the groaning mountain. And if you don't know why it grows, it does actually grow. I've seen us teaching skiing on the lawn at Laganlia, and you hear this big bang, almost like just a gun going off, and then you hear this droning noise like some little big castle door. And this is caused by the fact that you can't see too well here, but these gullies are actually hourglass shaped, so they're wide at the top, and then narrow the centre and the wide at the end. And the angle of the gate is optimum for avalanche. And so the avalanche would start maybe on the plateau there, and then it's almost like when you stand in snow and a really cold day streaks under your foot, well, if you imagine tons of snow coming down, then you get this real groaning sound. So hence the name of Gallic Mountain, Craig the Gaelican. And then over on the back of the Gaiety, this is now onto the Scorns Ridge, and that's looking down into your old water supply. I'm guessing you, from Beauregard, you get the water from Ballymore now as well? Yeah. We had a wonderful water supply in Newtonmore before, just going straight off the hill, but now we're on to Ballymore. But this is where your water came from. This is Loch Hynek. From the Scorns, looking over onto the ground being the platform beyond that. And the thing is, it's back to what I was saying earlier. I felt privileged being brought up to Haven, and I feel very privileged. I felt very privileged to work at Laganlia actually as well. It was a really good centre to work at, and I I feel very privileged to do what I do now, and I get some really quite lovely clients. This is actually a group of whisky ambassadors, mainly from abroad, mainly American. They do quite a lot with the distillers, and what they used to take them to do other activities like British shooting, port biking, but realised that what I do is probably more in keeping with the whisky industry being on Spey. So I'm very lucky to get quite a few bookings from the whisky companies who do trips like this. And then this is another group of whisky people. These are all bartenders, and this is the Glenfiddich, world Glenfiddich best bartender in the world. This is actually the Spanish contingent, who were like a bunch of frogs, like a box of frogs, but they were just lovely, lovely people. Just brilliant. And the actual world champion was this man, David Manzano, I think his name was. This is part of his prize to get a bottle of Glenfiddich 26-year-old, which you can see he appreciated quite a lot. They were a great bunch. I do get some strange people on my trips as well. And there's a beer on the man in the back just now. This is the lovely Jane in the front here, and she's actually thinking, what the hell is he doing now? Because the man in the back, he's all right, but he has these little sort of foibles. And anyway, we do forgive him most of the time. He's a very curious guy. Front row, fine. We'll love a really. Right, and I also get some quite well-known people. Is anyone going to have a look at that and guess who that is?
Tim Peake. Tim Peake?
Tim Peake, just Tim Peake, yeah. I was privileged. They're just a lovely, lovely family. And, you know, those who maybe know his father-in-law will probably know right. He's a lovely daughter, and Tim is just a lovely man, such a modest guy, and a lovely, lovely family. And then I don't mention, we've done a bit of filming again, and this is, you know, it's Paul. Martin, thank you very much. Thank you. The Alzheimer's has kicked in. So, Paul Martin. And he's a lovely guy, actually. We really good guy. The only thing was that his researcher had said it doesn't want to get wet. And so we actually only paddled from a fairly flat section. He said they would want something quite set, and I thought, we'll come down that bit, we'll go to Macallan, and then we'll finish at the lovely Telford Bridge at Craigellachie. And when we eventually got there and stopped, he said, right, how far are we going now? So, well, this is it. Your researcher said that you did want to get wet. So I said, I want to do much more with you. He said, this is the best part of the trip. They said, what? I didn't want to get wet. He said, as long as my hat didn't get wet. And then I mentioned that we did a filming with the adventure show with Cameron, that probably most of you know. So I did one adventure show quite a few years ago with Cameron, but more recently I did another one with the lovely Amy Irons. Now, guess which one I enjoyed most? Amy's just a lovely girl as well. She's just no airs or grace, she's just great. Right, so we're continuing our way down the river again, and this is our North Marcus now, so we've come down from the Loch Spey and down through past Newtonmore and so on. And I just think it's a really lovely bank of trees, and in autumn, that bank of trees is fantastic, because to me this is almost how the Spey should look, with trees overhanging the river, shading the river, shading the fish, keeping the temperature down, which is the important thing, and all these lovely deciduous trees, big mixtures. Things in there like birches and browns and aspens and so on, all mixed in there. So really nice, natural kind of bank of trees. Right, and this is actually, quite a while ago, this is in 2015. I did quite a lot of work over the years with Edinburgh University. And they bring in students from all over the world who want to do either education or conservation and environmental type education. So they have this sort of joint course, and then for some things they separate and some things they come together. And this is, they've only just arrived in the country, and the thing we did with them was we took them on Spey. That was a really good way for them to get to know each other. We just did a camping trip with them. And this really is, I would say, is one of the key access points on the river. Access on the river, we also see for us is quite difficult because we've got these big boats, so we have trailers, and we have, maybe a van or a minibus or whatever. So parking is quite difficult. I would have to say Boating is probably one of the best launching points in the whole of the Spey because you have the lay-by beside the golf course, and then when the water folk were doing the new Sue's work just down by the river, then I was actually contacted. I've been the river, I was the river advisor for 37 years for the Spey, and they actually phoned me up to ask would a foot and a half sort of path going down the river be enough for us. So that'd be fantastic. So the fact we've got lay-by on one side of the road, and then we had the wee track down. And this was a brilliant launch site for many, many years, and is the car park on the Farmer Road. It's a wee bit difficulties now, and we are hoping that the authorities will look at this quite carefully because the Old Inn, we admire free enterprise and their entrepreneurialism, but they are now applied for a beer garden formally in this area, which means there's now no car parking. The parking on Farmer Road is now really getting, I think, quite dangerous. And so we need to have a big discussion, I think, about this because for us, there's no launching between Kincraig and the boat, and that's really a key place for us. So I just think we all need to work together. There's just need for a bit of give and take and cooperation, and hopefully we will come to some sort of resolution and suit for everybody. I think there's space for everybody. Space to park, space to the Old Bridge Inn, and space for us as well, hopefully. And obviously, access has been a problem for us over the years, and some of the estates have been less than friendly at times. And but again, I was a river advisor for 37 years, and during that time, we started conversations. And this sign, for example, has been changed. The sign is still there, but they've actually painted over the bit where it says persons. So no unauthorised vehicles into a traffic light is fine, but they now take away from the persons because we have access. I mean, Scotland, as you know, is some of the best access legislation in the world. There probably was a need for it to be made more robust, I think the word would be. I think even the folks in National Park would agree with me that I think they've actually lost some cases that they thought was a cast-down case in terms of getting better access to the public, that they actually have lost several cases. So I think in some cases, local authorities are running a bit scared of not taking things to court because they think it's cost money. But we are making I think some sort of headway. I started organising meetings in Granton initially, where we invited the fishers to come along and meet with the canoeists, and initially with some acrimony, but then when we actually got discussing, then we were actually able to iron out a lot of the problems, and any problems that there were, we agreed we would take away and we would try and solve them. And then eventually, when they weren't working quite so well, then myself and some other outdoor colleagues, we formed the Spey Users Group, and we thought by using this word, the Spey Users Group, would mean it's less us than them, and that worked very well. So representatives from all the local authorities, from the Spey Fishery Board, from I think representative of the Canoe Association and so on. So we got around the table at least once a year, and then we could discuss any future problems. And that worked very well. We've actually kind of built bridges over the between the factions. So it's Spey users because we all hope to. My role as advisor, what I tried to do was bring a harmony. So I think it's not perfect yet. We still have problems. This is it's happened just in the last few years. Where one on another side start putting things like stones and lay-bys, so we couldn't park to the river. And then sadly, put this fence up. This was one of the major launching sites on the river. Not just for us either, but there was actually a car park here, where tourists who come in could just park on the river back here. There were picnic tables, and so it was a real public amenity. But they built a 300-metre fence right along the river, right where the launching was. Now we did plant some trees, but the interesting thing is there's no ends to this deer fence. So the deer got in, and the deer have actually munched all the trees anyway. So I'm sorry, this is not to do with planting trees. I'm all for planting trees along the riverbank, but this was not necessary for the fence. In fact, senior member of the Forest and Forest and Land Scotland he came along to see this and he said, this is nothing to do with tree planting. And the irony here is that the same estate had a huge project for the downstream done where they planted thousands of trees and they just put in about 2 metre high tree protectors, and forestry land Scotland now don't use fencing because they know it blocks access. And he said that this could have been done if you wanted to plant trees there, you could have planted trees there without the fence, which would have been a win for him and a win for us because we still could have accessed that key access point. And okay, the car park would have gone and big tables would have gone, but at least it would be again a compromise, which I think a lot of these things really need. And in fact, our fishing, I think what we've done over the years has been helpful. I think we got to know the fishers better and they got to know us. I mean, a lot of the gillies used to dislike us, and now some of them are my best friends, and we actually exchange Christmas cards and so on. So it's really worked. This is one of my favourite pools. This is actually the long pool in the Congo. And in that situation here, all we do is we just let the fishermen know we're coming down, and then we invite the gillie to hold the boat there, and he'll just ask us which side to go. And there, what we've done is we've gone down the left-hand side of the boat as you look at it, and we come down there, and it's all hunky-dory because the fishermen can still fish over so we can look at it the right-hand side of the picture. So the relationships are pretty good now. This chap here, with whom I'm sharing a dram, I think it's the other thing, I think they do know I carry an occasional dram in my boat, so that's obviously attraction as well. But this man here, he's actually a very well known, he's pretty much world famous. His name's Ian Gordon, called a Spey caster, and he could go and put a fly in a jam jar from 100 yards. I mean, he's a brilliant fly fisher. And he was actually the gillie for many years on the Congo. And it was an interesting situation with Ian many years before this picture was taken, but I was actually paddling a lower section of the river and I recognised Ian on the riverbank, way down towards Falls. And he actually beckoned me ashore. And he then introduced me to his Finnish client. And he said to his fishing client, he said, I used to hate this man, talking to me. And he said, I used to hate all the canoeists. And he said, I really wanted to chuck stones at them. He said, over the piece, he said, I've got to know this man. And he said, and I have to say, I don't say as many men, he said, I love him. He said, and the reason I love him is that we've got so much in common. And I felt very flattered when Ian Gordon said this. He said, this man is the same as me, that he has a passion for this river. And I feel very, again, flattered that he would say that, and very privileged that he say that. And we are, I think, pretty good friends now, which is just great. So when you get someone like Ian, who's really a very kind of influential fisher, it's good that he actually accepts the fact that we have a right to be in the river. And I mean, there are bad canoeists as well, by the way. There's an English society. There are good guys and bad guys, but most of us are conservationists, we are, and we respect very much what the fishermen do. And I think that's the thing. When I'm on the river, and I hope that all canoeists or all water sporters, in fact the fishermen as well, it goes by the 3 R's: reasonability, responsibility, and most important one is respect. I think if we respect each other, it all works pretty well. Right, I told you drams already, they're very influential. This is an identity reality. This is a guy called Dougie, one of his clients on the river, shooting a dram during the Whisky Festival week. And this is actually quite a good one because this is Dougie the gillie, this is an assistant gillie working, and this is one of his main clients. So these folk actually requested, it was Peter's birthday, and he requested on the river with me, and then Dougie saw us coming down, decking us in, and there was threatened to capsize them, which he didn't do. They are his clients. But if you have seen the Channel 5 programme, then you may have seen this lady, and she's one of the very few lady gillies. So her name is Danny Morley, lovely lady, and she does a lot of fishing teaching, and she does teach, she works a lot with ladies to get them into fishing as well. And there are more and more ladies on the river. And again, this is the filming, this is Andy here filming for the Channel 5 programme. So if you have seen it and you watch it, then you'll see Danny was interviewed on that programme as well. And actually, this is one of my favourite moments in almost, well, not all of it, but a lot of it. This is one of my favourite pictures, because here you have this is my client here. Some of you may know he's from the south, but he's got a house in Cromdale actually, and this is a dentist. And he got in touch with me because he wanted to give his dentist a treat. And his dentist had said he always wanted to paddle and Spey. So this Paul brought this Paul on the river, and this is Sandy, who was the gillie in the Canada for many years, 46 years he was there. And this is client Chris. And so we stopped off and I got the drams out. But one of the really nice things was that Chris said, oh, I don't drink whiskey. And my client said to Paul, well, I've been telling Dave all week I drink whiskey. Chris then said to Paul, what do you drink? He said, oh, I like a red wine. And he said, I've got the very thing for you. So we went into the hut and he brought out this apparently very lovely red wine. So it's really nice that we have my client sharing red wine with the. And this is another group of these are all fishers as well. The chap on the right here and the sup, it's on a paddleboard. To get a very long story short, I stopped in an eddy one day below the hut that they were having a huge party, the parasols up, the champagne corks were popping, and I drew in and I said, excuse me, I said, I've got a booking for Craig at 1:50. And this man Jamie said, oh, he said, I'm really sorry, Mr. Craig, we must have overbooked today, could you come back next week? So that night he phoned me and he said, look, we're here fishing in Orton at Brainwater for 2 weeks, could you take us canoeing next Sunday? And so it was really nice to have some fishermen. They want to paddle through the beats that they fish and see a bit more. And I've now had a good number of anglers coming on the river, which is great. Right, and back in the river for our kind of journey down. One of the other unique things about the Spey is that you can actually paddle the Spey, and until you get to Aber Lower, you're not really aware of any kind of villages or towns. And even Abbey Moor, okay, you've got the big hotel in the background there, but if I don't tell people that's there, apart from seeing the old Spey Bridge, you come by it, you don't really see much of Abbey Moor. Which maybe isn't a bad thing. But anyway, that's going on down through Abbey Moor. And then we recognise these are quite close here as well. This is actually just down at Petrulish. And these are the sand martins. I always think they look like these kind of cave dwellings these people lived in long ago. But the nice thing about the sand martins is that they were diminishing in numbers. But since the mink have been exterminated, let's say, because the mink obviously they were threatening the otters, and also they were good, they could climb up there and they go into the sand martins' nests and take the chicks and so on. And so the minks are now excluded, and they reckon that, so very they were doing a survey on the sand martins, and they reckon that population will be doubled since the mink have been removed. So I think that's good news. They might recognise this bridge. It's not the best shot of your bridge, but here we will now go to Garton. And then, as I mentioned before, there's a lot of flat water, especially in this area here. So when we've got a tailwind, then it's really nice to sail down there. And so it's a sailing with an old spinnaker or a mirror dinghy I used to have, sailing down just towards Brunel Bridge. And there's other ways to. This is more sedate. I've seen some more elderly sort of residents of Dunmurley actually using this technique. No names, no background, but I've seen them using this technique in previous years. But it's amazing how effective that is. You know, when you've got two big rollers of the cat, it's amazing how you can tap along. If you recognise these are the granite structures on the Nethy Spar, where the train coming down we've crossed over to go onto the Speyside line, and then on down to Nethy Bridge, and then on down to Craigellachie. I think it's a real shame that we lost that, but they're amazing structures, and they're good to play on the arches of the Nethy Spar. And this is the approach to. I always think about Merrill Street and Clint Eastwood when I get to here, because I always think it looks like one of the American bridges of Madison. And then I used to do quite a lot of camping. This is one of my groups, so a long time ago now, camped at Ballyfirth, and this is the sort of camping meadow there. And it's pretty good because Ronnie has a toilet there and so on, so it's really good that there's a toilet facility. It's a nice good campsite. And then on to Granton, and this rapid between the two bridges. This is a good level of water in here, but when this is low, again, talking about singing songs, I tend to sing that, for those that remember the Lynn Anderson song, I didn't promise you a rose garden. I found myself singing I promise you a rock garden. Anyway, this is the bridge at Gilsbury Bridge at Low Granton, which I have to say, for me, rather more attractive than the one built in 1931 we've just seen. And this is what I do with groups. I get into the riverbank first, we run through strokes and so on. And then it was serenaded by a certain gentleman called Mr. Napier. And he sort of comes down, and I give him a wee call. He comes down and plays lovely Scottish music to our guests. And talking about dubious guests, I thought this gentleman here might be this evening, and gather, and since it's so quiet, he's not here. Mr. Walker might recognise the gentleman here. But this is actually a group of my ex when I worked at Lagan, so I got to know quite a lot of teaching people from Lagan. These are some of my ex Edinburgh teaching colleagues. Anyone recognise this reprobate again? Nethy Bridge, name of Hamish. Right, this is a bit of a reprobate as well. This is stuff called ranunculus, water buttercup, or it's also called crow food. And this is actually put into the Spey by somebody who's cleaning out a pond. They thought it was a water plants go through into the Spey. But sadly, it's colonised all within the river. And it really was a scourge. And for a while, people at Gillies were doing well by just pulling it out. But obviously, the more it went down the river, the more it was actually colonising the river. Aberlour at one stage, and right across the still bit between Aberlour and Kilgallen. But now what they do is they cool it out, they put it above the sort of flood water line, and they dry it out, and then they take it permanent. And there is, at the moment, I would say less, but obviously they can't use the herbicide, because that would affect other things in the river. So when something like that gets into a water course, it is obviously very difficult to get rid of. So you recognise this, it's a very fine day away to Columbia. Next bridge down is Hadvey. Quite a tricky little bridge to come down. Sometimes the water's high enough, you get down this channel here, but most of the time you've got to come around here. But if it's shallow, you can see probably here that the current is sort of heading off the pillars. And I have had friends who've actually been hiding on a boat site. They've actually had, one of my colleagues actually had 2 or 3 boats wrapped on the Hadvey Bridge. And we're now kind of into fishing land. And this is called the King's Hut. You can actually see this on the road. If you're driving from Aberlour back up West Granton, you know where the farm is with the traffic lights. And that's the King's Hut. And they really love the gilly there, John. He spends time putting flowers in the flower box and hanging baskets. So it's a very body hut. And on the river, we see all sorts of different kinds of wildlife. This is a little butterfly beside it, I've riding my canoe. And then this is the other endangered species. This is your freshwater pearl mussels. And apparently one of the main things that's endangering us now is the fact that we're using too many dishwasher tablets, because apparently some of the chemicals in that can affect freshwater pearl mussels. So maybe we need to sort of rein back a bit in the dishwasher. I mean, they are incredibly interesting features. But thankfully there are quite a few still in the Spey. But they still have encountered times when people still are trying to find their pearls to make a fortune and leave them just the shells on the riverbank. And it's the iconic Atlantic salmon, and to see they are now designated protected species. Difficulty is because there's been so many trees cut down on the riverbanks and the water temperature is higher. And in recent studies, it's actually proven that the salmon do get stressed in higher temperatures. And because the sun's on the river more, a lot of trees have been cut down along the riverside. And that was mainly done, I would say, in Victorian times, where a lot of people were you come to Spain, I think I said before, maybe our forefathers weren't quite so knowledgeable about how they're actually affecting the environment. And even now, with the global warming, is the temperature rising, then this year there was a thing where there was at least 1 if not 2 weeks during the summer where the fishing board were requesting fishermen not to fish between 9 and 5 if the temperature of the water is above 21 degrees. Because it's now been proven that if you catch a fish in the river, the temperature is over 21 degrees, and you catch the fish, it's all catch and release now, everything's catch and release on the Spey, and so you can't keep everything. I've always wondered personally how well a fish can procreate further upstream when it's spent, 15, 20 minutes on an end of a line fight for its life, but that's because they don't eat in the river. They eat in the sea, and when they come upstream, they don't eat. So it's almost like Tim Peake can offer one of these space things where he's got to have all these supplies in his pocket, and off he goes, and he's got to have enough to let him go that big. But the same as the fish, and a lot of them do die naturally before they get that big. But they're not eating the river, so they need all the resources they have to actually procreate successfully. So I've often wondered how well they can, I don't have a study done in that, how well they procreate once they've been fighting. Like you're meant to land a salmon in the number of minutes it is pounds. So if it's a 10-pound salmon, you should land it within 10 minutes. That's still a long time to be fighting. But they've now decided that it's now been proven that if you catch a fish in water that's more than 21 degrees, it's got a 60% chance of dying within 2 weeks. So there is a move to look at that as well. And this is one of my slide, this is about the river. I love the river with a passion, but as I said earlier on, I did say that I love to see the trees overhanging the river. But this is where the trees been taken down. Obviously, the trees are then felled, the bank loses integrity. The roots of the trees that are holding the bank together. The trees are obviously slowing the flow down as well during state conditions. The trees are sheltering the river, sheltering the salmon. There's insects dropping off the leaves into the river. So it's always been a kind of a whole sort of quandary as to why fishermen actually did cut the trees back. And I have some ability to tell me because some people were catching the hooks in the trees and so on, and that's one of the main reasons they were cut back. And then wonder, well, why did it devise a Spey cast, which is meant to keep your fly fronted? Anyway, that's a different story. But the sad thing is that when the estates in past have tried to, this is actually on a right-hand bend, so the rivers obviously start eating to that side once the trees were taken down, and often they've used boulders, but worse still here, they've used Davian baskets, which are quite unsightly, and the chance of them vegetating is highly unlikely. So I think there will be more and more in the future thoughts on maybe planting trees. There was a project at Abbey Water, if you're aware, but there was a bit of erosion happening at the Old Bridgeon area, and I think maybe some people in this room actually worked together to actually get some funding to plant willows, and they actually used sort of lattice work of willows, and that's been very successful to part of the bit just by Old Bridgeon. So perhaps in the future we'll also see more of that happening in terms of bank restoration. Because I think there's a realisation that we do need more trees, both in the tributaries, but on the main stem of the river as well. And it was quite sad that recently I was on the river, and this just happened in the last 12 months, and I was quite vexed to see this, because I saw this just in the weeks after I heard the evidence about the water and fish dying if the water was above 21 degrees. So I was quite surprised to see that there are still trees and limbs locked off trees that would be overhanging the river. And the other thing I'm a wee bit sort of vexed about is, we get to do this after this, is that they string all the banks. And I mean, it's all very nice, but they've got better grass than that on my lawn, so they string them, and then they spend hours mowing them. And I think, well, here's these petrol-driven tractors and petrol-driven stringers, that's not very good for the environment. But there's miles and miles of the Spey looks like this. And so what's happened to biodiversity? Just think the pollinators, if there was things growing up in there, and I think the next slide, there you are. That used to be strimmed, that's just approaching the old Spey Bridge. But, and okay, lupins aren't native plants, but they're really good for the ground, because they are the pea family, So they put nitrogen back into the soil, and then for the pollinators, they kind of rotating with that. So compared to that, I'd rather be seeing more of that person. I mean, you still need space for the fishermen to walk and so on, but it is just to make it more convenient, I think, for the fishermen. It's not very good for the environment. Right, so continuing our sojourn down the river, then we're at Cragganmore now, and I'm doing not too bad. So this is the Cragganmore distillery, quite a picturesque distillery in a way. It's by Cragganmore, and it's a Diageo distillery. It's what I call a malt lorry and spirit lorry out. So the malted barley is delivered by one lorry, and then the spirit's taken away. It's Diageo, most of their maturation buildings, their warehouses way down, mainly around the distilling area. And then tucked away in here is a lovely house called Cragganmore House, and that house was built by John Smith, the distiller, when he was building the distillery. So that was built about, I think, in the 1860s. So we built this house in about 1864, and that's one of the. I used to do lots of camping, but I've been camping for a number of years. Can't think why. Cragganmore House is one of the houses we stay in. And again, this is my group of septuagenarians, because they were all much older than me. And all in their 70s. And this was one of the hardest trips I ever had to do. It was 10 women. And honestly, it was just, I hated it. It was terrible. You know, they were lovely ladies. They were all, I think, this was Genevieve, she was the organiser. And they'd all been at school together. All playing hockey, by the way, when they were at school. And yeah, there was a great bunch of ladies, it was brilliant. And this is actually in Cragganmore House, which I'd highly recommend for dinner or lunch steal, but they have a ton. It's brilliant. Anyway, yeah, Cragganmore's lovely, a lovely group. One of these ladies, when we got to, with this group, we came from, I think, Allymore, and when we got to Granton, it's really, you can hear her still singing it now. She said, you know, I did say after Granton, the river moves more decidedly seaward, and she said, it's going downhill. So, yeah, well, that's what it is. Right, and after Cragganmore, this was a railway bridge over the Spey, and probably what went with the new Borough was it's only still active over the Spey. So this is at Cragganmore village off to the right, and then this was built by a Dundee company in about 1864. And of course came to 1964 and the lovely Dr. Beeching closed all these lines, so that's now part of the Speyside Way. And this is now into Ballinalloch Estate. And the castle, well that's Ben Egan, sorry that's, not Ben Egan at all, that's Ben Rinnes. That's Ben Rinnes. And yeah, obviously an open shot, you see the trees changing colour here. The castle is just beyond these big coniferous trees there. Right, and this is the notorious washing machine. Anyone knows anything about the Spey knows another rapid called the washing machine. And it's a great rapid. It's where the river goes from, let's say, approximately 100 metres wide to be about 30 metres wide. So just a kind of like a chute. And if it is really low conditions, you can sort of bump your canoe on it, but it's really great. And as long as I just say to my groups, it's like skiing, just have loose hips, let all the upper body stays quiet, and then you just put it in, and it's fine. Just let the boat do what it needs to do. It's when people freeze, because then the wave puts them over, and then they go. So we've had a few capsizes, but it's a really brilliant rapid. That's actually a Dutchman, and this is a man who used to live next door to me in Kingersey. Anyone else know Harry McCall? He was the lawyer, the county council. This is my good friend Robbie again. This is the man you saw in Lockspey. And this is against the university students, because Robbie is a professor at the university. And then this is just below the Washington, this is the Bird Bridge at Berry Park. So I've just put all these bridges just to, I think I've got most of them in, just to give you some idea of where you're at. Right, and this has been my favourite pool, or one of my favourite pools in the whole Spey. This is called the Pouches. This is on the Candle. Lovely day. In the Pouches pool. And the kind of wrapping is it's quite good fun again. It's quite technical. It is a grade 2, but it's low grade 2. It's not particularly hard. Again, this is actually a lecturer. In fact, there are 2 lecturers from the university in the student groups. And then some people want to make it difficult for themselves. And I really was surprised they actually made that. They're doing the right thing here. For those that are not technically minded, you almost lean away from the current. Because if you lean into it, then there's turbulence forms in the top side of the boat upstream and it pulls you over. But they actually managed to keep the boat moving downstream and they got away with it. That again, that's the kind of. Above the kind of wrapping, you then got one of the best preserved parts of the Spey railway line. This now belongs to Ian McLeod Distiller who owned Tamdhu, and they've now really done quite a lot of renovations. If I think the building at the far end there, that was a wee bit ruinous for a while, but they've re-tarted up, and that's where they have a lot of whisky tastings. And I did quite a lot of work with Ian McLeod Distillers, and I gave them a lunch in there, and they would take them down the river to Craigellachie from there. But there's actually, all the levers are still in the signal box, so it's a really nice piece of history. But as well as that, Tamdhu do make, I think, very nice whisky, and this is actually what I call my James Whisky Bond case. When I take it's one of these photographic cases, when I take it in my boat, and people think I'm getting a gun out, but that's just my Glencairn nosy glasses and a nice bottle of whisky. Tamdhu, by the way, all the whisky is matured. The whole maturation process is done in Oloroso sherry casks. So if you like a sherry influenced whisky, then if you haven't had it before, Tamdhu is the one for you. Then a bit further down, you've got Cardew. It's interesting, well, in fact, it's actually uphill from there. You've got 3 distilleries in a triangle. You've got Tamdhu, Cardew, and the Candle. And well, you know what Dew is black, yeah? And then a Car is a small hill, and Tam is a small hill, and so people assume that the Candle is Knockesville. In fact, Cardew, the Candle means small black hill, but apparently the Candle means the marketplace. Anyway, this is the Cardew, this is obviously Johnny Walker, and Mrs. Cumming, Elizabeth Cumming. She was the first lady who got involved in distilling. And she was one of the ones who, if you saw the customs man coming, they would hang up different washing on the washing line. That gave, it was like semaphore almost, where they, or like flags on ships, but they were giving a message to neighbours to see the customs man is in so area. She had her own distillery. Her husband was a farmer, and remember this, he died, and so then she ran the farm, and her son helped her, and they started Cardew Distillery. And then Johnny Walker, who was basically a grocer in Port Glasgow, he was wanting to get whisky, so he got, and he liked what was producing from the distillery, so he bought Cardew, and so he was the man that started the Johnny Walker whisky industry. And obviously he was doing mainly blends at that time, and he was blending whisky. And Johnny Walker became famous because he was in Port Glasgow, he knew a lot of sea captains, and when they went to see places like Australia, whatever, they were actually in time with their hands. So he gave them all top hats, tailed red coats, big boots, and then loads of Johnny Walker whisky, and they'd walk in bars in Australia and say, we're getting electric whisky. And that's how Johnny Walker became one of the famous, a very clever marketing model. And then this is some of the barley at Cardew, just outside the distillery. And that's what we destined to end up, or not exactly that field, but anyway, we destined up in this thing. This is, you know, we had the expression grist to your mill, and this is where the barley is grusted, as it were. So this is called a Porteous mill, no longer in business because Porteous mills don't go wrong. So they've been the victim of success that never break down, maintained, and this is actually the mill in Cardew. And then they take the ground barley from the mill and they put it into this is a mash tun. To me, it's like a big, almost like a cafetiere where they put in about 3 lots, so they put the ground barley into it and put in 3 lots of hot water and then take it off and into the wash bags. The thing that people often forget about, you need 3 important things to make whisky. You need good water, you need good quality barley with a particularly good nitrogen content, but you also need yeast, and this is the one that people forget about. So this is a yeast what we at TAM do actually, loading a lot of chemical yeast for. And this is a mash tun. This is an unusual one. This is actually, you may have seen it if you travel to Aberlour. This is the Balladal distillery. There's a brewing staying there. And I have to say, I think they've done a brilliant job. We've now got this really nice mini distillery at very handcrafted. This man here is Colin Poppy. He's the manager, and they actually hand stir their mash tuns. So the sparge will come from the mash tun into the washback and then put yeast in, and it then really folds up. And so you need to keep that down. Gordon Distillery have got a thing at the top called a step, and that keeps the foam down, but they just hand stir it to keep the big wooden spoon. Right, we're now at Carron Bridge, probably my second favourite bridge on the river. And I mean, this one used to carry the railway and the road. So the Speyside line used to cross back over, so it went over from right to left, and the last days we were going left to right on its way to Aberlour. This is one of our stopping off places. This is one of our little buffets at the side of the river. Lovely couple called Carolyn and Derek were there last year. And then after lunch, you give them just a wee dram. And then you can see this from the Speyside way as well. This is called Lagan House. So the river left here is called Lagan. And this is now, used to be owned by Eagle Star Insurance a good number of years. But now it's been bought by a property company, and it's now timeshare. So if you want to be timeshare on the Spey, you have lovely apartments in here, lovely apartments, and then instead of having your beach sort of on the seaside, as part of timeshare here, you get fishing for 4 guests on the I understand that the last time one was sold, it went for, well, how much do you think? Anyone going to guess? $250,000. Yeah, good guess. Yeah, $250,000. And then you've got a 4-figure sum for your maintenance. Right, so the question here is, did they make it? This is a rapid called the Pots, which is just up from, and it's just like 2 kind of pots on the river. So did they make it? See the boat is, it's leading upstream?
No.
The answer is no. But they had a great time. And I mean, capsizing is just, it's part of canoeing. We try to avoid it, but it does happen sometimes. But no harm ever comes. And even guides have been on the capsize. So sorry, Jay. Right, we're now in Aberlour. This is the side of the Aberlour distillery. This is actually some Danish guests, and the distillery was very busy. And when I turned up, you couldn't just turn up and inspect that day. It was the last bit of decision of the distillery. But my good friends now were just looking at that time and said, we can't take you into the distillery, but how about it's a nice day, we'll give you an epic tasting and we won't charge you. So I thought, well, that's very good. So I and the Danes were very good. Right, some distilleries actually, this is actually one of the buildings at the Aberlour distillery. But a lot of distilleries actually to own the Glenlivet name. Glenlivet really is probably the epicentre of the formation of the kind of used to be that we know today, because there's lots and lots of illicit stills up in Glenlivet. And then the Smith family were the first to become registered and have licenses to actually make whisky legally. So a lot of the distilleries want to be associated with Glenlivet because that was the name that people knew. So you do, even on some barrels, still see the name of the distillery with Glenlivet. Whereas that's why Glenlivet now calls itself the Glenlivet. So that's the difference. But they're moving away from doing that. Most distilleries now want their autonomy. Right, this is the approach from a canoeist point of view to Aberlour. This is the Penny Bridge at Aberlour, and it really is a lovely bridge. Cut a long story short for it, it's called the Penny Bridge, and that's because off to the left, you can't see this picture, you can see it in the next one, there is a very substantial stone-built house to the left there, and that was where the ferryman lived. And so this was the boat of Upper Lower, the boat of Garfield, because there's a ferry here. See, boat of the river means there was a ferry. And so the ferryman lived river left, and one day the river was in state, and he wasn't running a ferry, but whether it was financial incentive or whether he was bullied into it, he eventually agreed to take the ferry over. And guess what? They got halfway across, and the ferry capsized, sadly with the loss of all on board. I think 8 people drowned that day. So James Fleming, who was the man who had built the Aberlour distillery, he was a bit of a philanthropic gentleman, and he said, right, he was the man that built the orphanage and so on, and I think Fleming Hall in Aberlour. He said, I don't want the ferry to be reinstated. I'll build a bridge, but I want you to pay for it. And so you pay a penny to use the ferry, so when you cross the bridge, an honesty box, and you'll pay a penny to use the bridge. That's why it's called the Ferry Bridge. Right, that's it from below, and that's the ferryman's house just there. And it's interesting, you can't quite see it, but there's actually windows in the corner of the gable, and that was so you could look out and see who's going to use his ferry. It's now lived in by a lovely gilly called Sam. And I sometimes park my boats just in here, and one day I saw the river and I said, Sam, I hope you remember me parking my boats outside your garden. They have Davey. He said, that'll be fine. He said, it's going to be a couple of scones. So one day I was in the village and I went in and I parked boats there, so I went into the baker and bought 6 scones and left his land boat. And the next time I was going down, he said, next year, David, you didn't have to do that, man. It was nice. And the thing, I'm glad I did it because one day the rain was so torrential that I ended up having, I moved the lunch into Sam's woodshed. So that's Sam's woodshed in my case. Lunch in Sam's woodshed. I took him a bottle of whiskey a day as well. Right, this is a bit further, this is between Aberlour and Craigellichie now, and up in the hill here is some of the older warehouses, the mighty McCallum. And this hill behind you, it's not the best shot of it, but that hill there, that's man-made. I reckon that was one of the biggest earth-moving projects, even in the whole of Europe, where McCallum decided they didn't want to have any more warehouses on the surface of the land, so they built this big mound up here so they could actually put their warehouses in that hill. And the only thing you can see, there are ventilators at the top of it, but that cost something like 400 million. So you've got to sell a few bottles of whiskey to make that back. But the whole project for McCallum did cost I think about 540 million for that and the new distillery. And this is the new distillery. And they tried to emulate the hills with the grass-covered roofs. I didn't know this, but well, I was working with some McCallum managers one day on the river, and we picked this up the minibus the other side of the site and drove along and said, "My goodness, that looks like La La Land." And there was just a silence in the bus, and apparently that's what the locals affectionately call it. They call it La La Land. And especially because these things have their own ventilators as well. And when they're mashing, you get the steam coming out, then it's really quite like you can imagine the Teletubbies sort of around. If you don't kill anyone, it's said that. This chap here, this is Stuart. We're actually doing some filming for a Visit Scotland thing that day. It was a joint thing between McCallum and I, and it was a Visit Scotland kind of cameo thing, which is going to be shown in North America, so eastern seaboard. But whatever else, it is a fantastic architectural feat. Every one of these panels up there is a different shape, and they've got 36 stills there. So we're talking about other distilleries having 2 stills. This is the Craigellichie Bridge, which is again just a masterpiece of architecture. And the Craigellichie, again, the brilliant whiskey. I'm told we're actually running a week short of time here, so this is Balvenie, their barley. Balvenie is unique. Balvenie grows some of its own barley still, and it's the one distillery where you can go and actually see the whole process. That's their water bath for steeping the barley. This is their malting floor. which still works. It's the only mainland distillery that still has its own malting floor. Only 10% goes in, and this is their kiln. They even have their own coppersmith. This is actually Macallan stills. Their sister distilleries, Balvenie and Macallan, obviously. Sorry, Glenfiddich. That's Glenfiddich. This is Glenfiddich by night. And this is the elixir coming out of the stills. That's how it looks when it comes out. And Gordon McPhail, well, that's it, been taken away. Actually, in this lorry here, it's not the whiskey spirit, because if it had it, it didn't have a orange triangle. This is probably sort of like the pot ale. This stuff comes out at the bottom that goes off for root processing. But most of these lorries go south. You see that they'll have the spirit. But Gordon McPhail is saying it's all in the root, and this is what gives you the colour and the ultimate flavour of the whiskey. Is the balance. This is from Mere Heaven. This is the Balvenie warehouse. Really nice. The smell there is absolutely fantastic. Balvenie Double Root 12 is the whiskey that introduced most people to whiskey. So really nice brand. This is in Brackencrigalkey. This is Crigalkey Lodge, one of our residences. And next to that comes the Highlander Inn, which is actually called the Whiskey Inn, run by a Japanese chap who's very well known in worldwide whiskey now. And they did actually a whiskey made, especially for Crigalkey Hotel. This is actually, you'll see it's called a Speyside blended malt. Not to be confused with a blend. Like Johnny Walker or some of these other blended whiskies, they can have any grain in them. Whereas this is a blended malt, that's purely barley. It's in that one. And then every year they have the festival. This year it's the 1st to the 6th of May. And during the festival, I run trips from Tamdhu down to Crigalkey. This is my tabletop canoe for it. And I'm an ambassador factory now for most of these distillers. And if it's a wet day, we just move it into the teepee. This is some local characters that some of you recognise, just having a dram at Crigalkey. And then the lovely Glengrant distillery is a lovely distillery, lovely guides, and I don't know if you've got a lovely garden you can visit in Glengrant as well. I love this picture. This is Speyburn. You can see in the road to Elgin. Speyburn is only recently to the public, and it's well worth a visit there because they've got the most unusual maltings. These are called drum maltings, and they've got these big drums, and it's like someone locked the door to these in the 60s, and they've only opened it. There's still barley in the escalators that take the whiskey up, the barley up and down, the elevators. It's still there. That's been closed off since 1960, but it's now open to the public. It's unique. That's the only one. And this is their lovely. I love their maltings as well. This is their maltings. They're some of the distilleries. Distilleries like Macallan, Glenfiddich, Balvenie, and Speyburn, they actually do their maturation on site. And that's some of their elixir there. Right, Low Rothis. That's this place works 24/7. This is where things like the pot ale and the draft now go to. It used to make cattle feed, now it makes biofuel. Right, this is boat and rig, which some people get confused about. How do you have a boat and a rig? And it's because I have two bridges here. This is the first one that was there, that's the rail bridge, and that was the road bridge that replaced the ferry east of there. So that's why it's called boat and rig. And again, it's something else that a lot of people have seen. These are actually they're called the red hooks, and they are glacial debris that's been dragged through ferrous material and made this lovely terracotta colour. And it looks very crumbly, but they hardly ever change in their nature. Absolutely fantastic. And now with the Focke-Wulfs, two bridges with Focke-Wulfs. Sadly, when I first planted the Spey, this house was 500 metres from the river. But over the piece, she's moved across and moved across, and sadly, that house was no longer there. It was demolished just as it was washed away. And this is the last bridge on the Spey. This is the Garabach Viaduct, and this is taking the train from Inverness. This is what we call the fish line, because they come along here and it's way to Aberdeen and it would pick up the salmon. And maybe where it's Spey, they have these old fish, ice houses where they store the fish. But one of the bailiffs on the river, he used to live in this area, and when they were young boys, they used to take their bikes up here. There's two, you can see there's an arch over there, and an arch here. They used to race each other on the push bikes over there. And then when they came to the age to have trials bikes, they would actually use a blocking tackle, take their bikes up over here, and race their trials bikes over this way. If you fell off there, it'd be death. So we're pretty much at the end now, folks. So you can hopefully you have enjoyed it, and I think you've seen a number of contrasts. You've got splishy, splashy bits, as I would call them, and then you've got kind of really tranquil bits. And this is you approaching Spey Bay, with a nice tranquil thing. A really high tide here. It's not always like this. Very often it's almost half a mile to get to where the sea is. And I always finish with this. This is a German gentleman who came to the festival with me a couple of years ago, and what his t-shirt said, you can't read this, we don't need therapy, he just needs to go to Scotland. And then he said that day, he said, I've decided it's not just Scotland, he said, you just need to come to Speyside. There's something magical about Speyside. And I don't know you, I kind of agree with that. So I'll just leave you with this evening arrival at Spey Bay.
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. That's great. Does anybody have any questions they'd like to put? It's a longer talk than we normally have.
Sorry.
Not a few words. It would be tragic to stop at Tim and Hell's house and call it there. Yeah.
Oh.
How long does it take to canoe down?
Well, I'll tell you, the person you should ask that is that lady you were saying in there. How long did it take you to do it?
From Kincraig to Spey Bay, 13 hours and 22 minutes north.
So that's it. But Emmy's unusual. Emmy's special. For most of my trips, my most popular trip is 3 days. We do 50 miles a day. The thing is, I think it's like a fine wine. You don't want to go rushing. We're going to say ladies say, but I can't say that now. I'm not going to generalize. But you want to take your time in the space. So we do 50 miles a day. So I think I mentioned that a classic Spey descent for me is to go from Kincraig to the sea over 5 days. So day one, you might go from Kincraig, probably to Ballyfirth or to Granton even, which is quite a long time, that's over 20 miles. And then the day split up, and my trip split up. And most people do the same. You go from Granton to around Cragganmore, then you go Cragganmore to Gallaghy, and the last day is to Gallaghy to the sea. So that's the average time. That's the heavy special.
And how many people are in the group? I mean, how?
I used to do any number up to 12, but I will only do couples. I now need a minimum of 6 because I'm honestly not hard as a businessman, but
Yeah, thank you. What will be the maximum?
12.
12.
Yeah.
Are you optimistic about the future of the river in terms of the tree planting on the banks and the preservation of it? Clearly, and it already is a moving piece, isn't it? The banks are always moving, as you showed in front of us.
Well, some of the park people maybe should ask them that question. I'm optimistic. Yes, I think I try to be very respectful of our forefathers, but I think it's like a lot of things in our world. We've made mistakes in the past. Like cutting the trees down along the riverbank and so on. But I think there's been lessons learned, and so I'm moving towards that. I think things like the Calder project, we're planting trees, putting the big trees in to stem the river flow, even make the river go back to its original course. Pete, is it Alvlogia, or you call it on Carbridge? Project has been done on is it the Logie or the Alvlogia?
It's the old Logie.
Lord, yeah. That's been successful, yes? Do you want to tell us why?
The salmon breeding success has increased over 10 years since it was done.
Yeah.
That's one measure of it.
So that's the project in Cambridge, yeah?
That's the one that's on the Lord Cambridge, yeah. But it's also, and there was also is it the Benny Burn, or is it the Benny Burn you call it, one over on the east side? There's one over towards, the D, that's happening as well. So,
Yes, the Belty burn.
but I mean, I think more of that's going to happen in the future, isn't it? We're going to have more and more of that. But this organisation, that's what we need.
I went to Beavers Camp, those
Yeah, well, they're here, yes. Yeah. Well, they will, you know, and once they get the tributaries, they'll start building dams and therefore, it is a fact that, you know, the farming community of the East, they have bulldozed or dug out the rivers to make them very straight, very canalised, because they want to drain the land. But I realise that's not the best way to do it. We do need floodplains, and that helps slow the whole flow down, and that's what's helped that Lord and various other places, and hopefully that will happen with places like Calder and more projects like that will happen in the future.
Anybody else?
How much traffic is there on the river now?
How much traffic?
Use grass, subs,
Um,
increasing or is it decreasing or is it stable?
Well, there was a while that we thought it was maybe getting quite busy, but it's funny that my guests asked me that question, but we'll see other people. And there's some trips I've done in the last few years where we've seen nobody else in the whole river. But it's probably, you'll know yourself, Uncle, that Ballinartic Handle was quite popular, where most of the white water is. I just think the bit between the Handle and Armagh is really good as well. But most people if anyone's in a section of the Spey, they're going to Ballinartic Handle. So you might see somebody there. And so that's where you might see the rafts. But for me personally, the Spey is going to be a rafting river. You know, the Finhorn is, and it's up, and the Tummel and so on. But the Spey's not really. At the same time, having said that, when I worked at Langlea, because I don't know if you know, I worked at Langlea for 25 years, and we did rafting at Langlea, and we did it. But, yeah, but one of my best days ever was at a group of octogenarians in a raft. And the thing is, they wouldn't be able to go in kayaks, and they wouldn't have handled canoes. But there they were, the helmets and the wetsuits, and they were just loving it. And there's a puzzle and they just loved it. And then we got the splishy, splashy bits, and it was loving it. So rafting we have a place, but for me, it's more like a really good wildlife watching platform rather than the gung-ho thing you expect from rafting. So I think to answer your question, I think it's still minimal, really. Some days you might see 3 or 4 groups. And I often say to fishermen who know well, to say, you know, how many get today? So there's about maybe 3 groups of past a day, or something like that. But it's not the average.
This is a lot, there's quite a lot of paddle boarders though. That's grown.
Some paddleboards. This moment is the view of that. Yeah, but I mean, and I think perhaps that's how we should now, like, because it's like when everything starts.
Yeah, it's
You know,
Yeah.
windsurfing was huge for a time when it started, and it tails off. I still think a lot of people who maybe were paddlers are actually going to biking now. You know, I think biking, especially in electric, I think biking is actually only up.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, one more.
Yeah, we had a long time no see.
Well, you were just saying hello.
Yeah, we were on an interesting talk about the hydro schemes, and we went to all these dams up at the top of the Tromie and everything like that. I can't remember, it was a guy from the fisheries board, and it was up at Cuac and all that. And he said that Anders Paulson, that up at the top of the Tromie, was wanting to take the dams out because the tunnels that are going to down to Perthshire and all that, they've collapsed.
All right.
And he was wanting to take the dams out so that the salmon can get up further and
Right.
to improve the rivers.
Yeah.
Which it sounds really good because these tunnels. Well, my father was a dam builder in Perth and Tummel and Rannoch and all that.
Right.
They need to be improved, but it makes sense that Anders wants to blow up the dam at the top of Tromie and let the salmon spawn higher up, and then that could help the rivers.
Well, Anders has come under a lot of criticism with various people, but I mean, I think a lot of us agree what he's doing is the right thing, you know. And to me, the word
the R word, the rewilding, is scary for some people, and people think rewilding is about apex predators, and it's got to be the bears, the wolves, the lynx. And to me, he's rewilding the right way, that we need to get the vegetation in first. I'll be honest to say, I think maybe before, this is a very personal view, I think maybe before the beavers were put in, we needed more tributaries to have more vegetation on them. Because I was thinking, well, what tributaries do I know that's got lots of trees along them? And, but I think he's doing the right thing. He's getting the vegetation in now, and you're getting the Scots pines growing up, and it's evident when you see, if you see photographs of Glenfeshie 10, 20 years ago, it's completely different now because they've been given a chance. And I think the main culprits, are the deer. The deer are munching as soon as a little sapling comes through. I remember when I was at Laganlia, I had a group of ladies, and they were actually women at risk, and I took them up. They were there for a weekend. They were having a great time. Had really hard lives at home, and we went up to Gusican, the Hill of the Pines, just down Glenfeshie. And it's a nice wee hill to do, a nice cane at the top. And when we got to the top, shortly after, maybe about 5, 6 years after they put the fence in, I don't know if you remember that, they fenced off a whole area of Glenfeshie then. And that was done by the NCC at that time. And we got to the top of the hill, and there was this pine tree coming through the heather. And I'm actually going, like, there's a pine tree, there's a pine tree. And they're thinking, what's wrong with him? But for me, that was so exciting because he was this completely sort of, to me, sterile hillside with no trees, and now the pines were going up. And now when you go back that same area of Gusican and right along to Achlein, that's just full of granny pine saplings and big trees. Yeah.
Well, that's a great segue into our next talk in a fortnight. Peter Kent is coming from Scotland, and he's going to be talking Scotland, the big picture. Sorry, yeah, Scotland, the big picture, and that's around the whole rewilding. So Peter, as many of you know, is a fantastic photographer. So we'll have some amazing images, but he'll be picking up on this whole story about rewilding and the various sort of elements to it. So yeah, that's a really nice thing. Yeah.
Well, I'll just go back to your example. They need to bring the water back in that direction. That's the thing. And there's a big hashtag release Spey. We need to try and bring the water back in this direction.
Yeah. But the hydro is, that infrastructure that was in the 50s is out of date. But we need to be like Norway and get, I'm for hydro, like we need to get a bit in the right place and the infrastructure right. But to let the salmon go up is just a no-brainer. What Anders is suggesting to let the salmon used to spawn before they built the dam, so they would go back up. And like you're saying, endangered. That's the first time I've ever heard that it's endangered.
Yeah, that's what happened in the last month.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Right, can we come to
Well, thanks again, though. That's been a fantastic evening.
Yeah.